Welcome to another video from Lockdown Electronics with me, Bill. Now you may recall I've done a couple of videos not too long ago on the Phillips Electronic Engineer kit, which I picked up in a charity shop, and at the end of the second video I did speculate that it might be interesting to think about what kind of things might these kits have them if they were produced these days. So this is my attempt to do that, and I've not stuck too rigidly to 1970s technology, but I've certainly given it a nod in that direction. So let's start by having a look at what exactly it is I'm going to try and do. So if you're a keen watcher of the channel, you'll have hopefully seen my two previous videos on the Phillips Electronic Engineer kit that I managed to pick up at a local charity shop for a very reasonable price. And not only has it provided me with a ridiculous nostalgic journey, it's also been quite a lot of fun and spurned quite a bit of thinking about the kind of things you could do as simple projects. Now, the last project we did on the previous video out of the man book was Circuit C1, which was the tuned frequency radio, and it assembled up on the card like that. And what I'm thinking is, what if we were going to produce a Phillips Electronic Engineer type of circuit today? What might we include? Now, I think pulling radio waves out of the ether has to be magic, and so that certainly has to contain some kind of radio projects, at least one, if not a couple. So here's my idea for one, and my what if is essentially this, which is a medium wave radio receiver that drives a pair of headphones. Now, purists amongst you are going to now say to me, you're using an integrated circuit, it's not really quite the same, is it? Well, okay, I'm going to claim that I think it is alright, because the TA7642 is actually in a TO92 package. It's exactly the same size as the 1815 NPN transistor I'm using there, and for all world it looks like a couple of transistors. So let's, if you don't already know, let's go and have a look what the 7642 actually is. So in about 1972, a couple of years after the Phillips Electronic Engineer that I've been using was produced, Ferranti started working on what became the ZN414, and they introduced it in 1972, and it's a complete TRF radio on a chip with a buffer, incoming high impedance buffer, 3 stages of RF amplification, followed by the square block there, which is a detector. And it was possible with some external components to also have some control of the automatic gain control of the receiver, so which more of in a while. Now, sadly, Ferranti went out of business, bankrupt in fact, in I think it was 1993, following acquisition of a company which had a few dodgy dealings, I think, in the past. Not that that's anything to do with today's video, but it was interesting to read. And in the 70s, you quite often got projects which contain the ZN414, and I will put a link in the description to a very excellent site in America that's got hundreds of scans of electronics magazines, and I think it was something like February 1974. Practical Electronics had got quite a comprehensive receiver that used the ZN414 as its front end. So it was a popular device, particularly with hobbyists. We're going to use the TA7642. Now, depending where you read, this is either a development of or a clone of the ZN414. I'm inclined to think it's probably a clone. And in my defence, I'm going to say that this probably is in the spirit of a Phillips Electronic Engineer, because what you're not getting on this integrated circuit is any of those newfangled MOSFETs. This is most definitely bipolar technology. There are 10 NPN transistors on there, and they actually form the same set of blocks as the ZN414, a high impedance input, some 3 stages of RF amplification, and then a detector, and it's still a 3-pin package. So input at pin 2, output at pin 3, and pin 1 is ground. The device gets its current from pin 3 as well. So we've got DC going in there, and AC in the form of the AF signal coming out. So if you actually attach a TA7642 to the spectrum analyzer and feed signal into pin 2 and look at what the output of pin 1, you get, that's a very rough and ready trace. It was just built on a breadboard, so it's not very scientific. But what you can see there, that starts at 200 kilohertz, stops at 2 megahertz. So you can see there's a sweet spot there that gets going about 500 kilohertz, and it's got a pretty, its strongest response sort of heads up just above 1 megahertz and then starts to tail off. So yeah, it's definitely going to work well on medium wave. And also this device has been used successfully as part of an IF, following some kind of superhet stage, a low frequency IF. So yeah, it's got its uses. The other two components I need, and I'm going to actually use the ones from the Electronic Engineer, is the variable capacitor. Now I've measured it, and it comes up at 5 to 200 picofarads depending where it's set, and the coil and its ferrite rod. Now the coil itself measures up at, there's 2 windings, measure up at 0.6 and 37 microhenries, and then with the ferrite rod inserted there's a considerable increase in inductance, as you can see. I've measured the second set of measurements with the coil on the middle of the ferrite rod, where I got the highest inductance readings. We're going to need to be moving that to get our radio to tune to the part of the band that we want. So yeah, it was interesting to see just how much difference a ferrite rod makes to a coil. I knew the theory, but it was interesting to see it when I measured it on my LCR meter. Okay, so let's go back to the circuit, and just want to make, there's nothing very earth-shattering on there. We know we've got the integrated circuit, its output through a decoupling capacitor just into a NPN transistor. I've used a C1815. You could use a 2N3904, anything like that would be absolutely fine. What I do want to make mention of though is the 3-volt supply. Certainly a lot of ZN414 projects used a 1.5 volt button cell because the current drain is very low, and the 7642 doesn't want lots of volts. So those 2 1K resistors not only provide a voltage drop, the measured voltage on pin 3, the DC voltage, I'm getting with a 3-volt supply, I'm getting I think about 1.3 volts or something like that. Off the top of my head, I can't quite remember. But the 1K resistors matter because they also form part of the automatic gain control. If you want to really get into this, I recommend you have a read on the internet. There's absolutely loads of information out there. So that's the circuit. On the breadboard, it looks suspiciously like that. I've labelled up the chip and the transistor for you. I appreciate this text's quite small, but the left-hand TO92 case is the TA7642, and the right-hand one is the NPN transistor. Coil is off to the left, power supply coming in at the bottom left. Capacitor is just top centre, and then I've got the headphones attached on the right hand side, and they go off on that grey and black wire on the right hand side. So that's the circuit. Right, that's quite enough of me waffling on about the theory. Let's go and see what's happening on the bench. Okay, here's the radio then, ticking away. It is switched on. Unfortunately you can't hear it because it's driving a pair of headphones. I'll come back to that in a moment. So there's the chip itself. There's the transistor, and I think the rest of it's self-explanatory. Power's coming in here, and I've got a power supply of 3 volts. You can hopefully see on the meter there, just slightly under 3 volts. 2.94. And it was quite popular in the day for these radios to run off 3 volt supplies, either a mercury button cell or a couple of AA batteries, and yeah, 3 volts there. and as you can see, we're drawing a very measly 4.8 milliamps. I knew that'd go off when I was talking. 4.8 milliamps. Excuse me. So if you do the math there, if you were running this off a CR2032 button cell, you'd get over 40 hours use out of this radio, and there was certainly ZN414 versions of this around in the 70s that ran off button cells like that. But having showed you that we've got a power supply of 3 volts, I just want to show you what the power supply is going in to the chip itself, and that's at the bottom of these two 1K resistors here. So if we just pick up that there, you can see we've just got just over 1 volt is the supply driving the radio chip itself. So it really doesn't need very much. If you're going to use it on long wave, you probably need to use a little bit more power, because the performance starts to drop off, as we saw on the curve earlier on. So there you go, that's the radio in action. Now just have a listen to this.
Against Everton, that one's in the Premier League. A reminder that from 6 o'clock we'll be building up to that. Me and Danny Martin will be alongside us. Noel Gallagher is also on today's show, still to come on today's show.
That's a recording I made earlier. It's not the easiest thing to record the headphones while I'm talking to you like this, so I just recorded the headphones earlier, and that's the radio working. You can hopefully hear that. I had to wait for a bit of speech, so I didn't get a YouTube copyright strike. But yeah, there you go. So that's the circuit. A great deal simpler than the Electronic Engineer version, and actually sounding slightly better. So there we go. That's the TA7642 based radio then. It's sort of got my interest going, so I may well do another project that makes use of that chip, but we'll see. And one of the reasons I wanted to pick radio as something to do for a project in a potential up-to-date version of the Electronic Engineer is because there is a certain magic in plucking signals out the air, and plucking AM signals out the air currently is still possible. How long that'll be, who knows. The bands were absolutely full of AM stations 50 odd years ago. There's a lot less now, and I think as time goes on they'll become less and less, but there we go. That's progress. There are clearly better systems about now. But I'm reminded of back in the 1980s, I was involved in a badge class for the local boys brigade company, and the badge class was on communication, and so I got the lads who were sort of 12, 13, 14 to build ZN414 based radios with an earpiece, and I got them to wind the coil themselves. I think we used a toilet roll centre as the coil former. Got them working, and the lads were absolutely thrilled to bits with this, although at the time they'd all got what was then the latest tech in the shape of Sony Walkmans that they could wear. They were just gobsmacked that they were actually able to fasten a few parts together and pluck some signals out the ether. So yeah, don't underestimate that magic. Even youngsters still like that. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks very much for watching. Look forward to seeing you next time.